All right, hello everybody. My name is Andrew Niekamp. I'm the new incoming chair for the RFS section. I want to welcome you all and thank you for joining us tonight for our 2017 annual business meeting. Our goal tonight is basically to give you a brief overview of the RFS, and then the new incoming respective chairs of all of the RFS committees will give a brief explanation on what their committee does, what they've accomplished over the 2016 term, and then they'll also address the goals that they have upcoming for this new year. Um, During this webinar, if there are any questions, you can either type them into the question box, which can be found on the GoToWebinar panel on the side portion of your computer. Also, if you have any questions, my email address is listed at the bottom of this screen and is also listed at the bottom of my slides, which I'll be going first. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me and we'll get started. Okay, so as I said, my name is Andrew Niekamp. I'm down here in Houston. I'm an R2 PGY3, and I'll be the incoming RFS Governing Council chair. And I will be taking over for Ali Alakhani, who's an R3 at the University of Tennessee in Memphis. Ali has done an absolutely amazing job over the past year. He's really helped build the RFS and continue its mission. And I really want to thank him for all of his efforts that he's put into the RFS to making it what it is today over the past year. I got some big shoes to fill, so hopefully we can carry it forward. So I want to start off the night talking about what my initiatives are for the upcoming term. The basic mission of the RFS has two principal goals, and those are recruitment and training. As we start implementing the new residency, obviously our recruitment is going to transition more heavily onto medical students now that we have its own residency. However, I do want to make sure that we don't forget that we still have the independent pathway and ESIR, so we still need to keep up our recruitment of really like-minded individuals who are in residency and people who want to get into IR there. So it's going to be a very pivotal year, a very year full of crossroads. So recruitment is going to be absolutely paramount this year. And then also training. Now that the new IR residency is in place, a bunch of different programs are going to be looking at what they should be doing, how they should be training their residents. And I think the RFS can play an absolutely pivotal role in helping forward and promote the clinical model of IR and really making sure that we are full clinicians and not just high-class plumbers. Again, the goal of the RFS is to be a pivotal player in the implementation, development, and growth of the new IR residency. We actually are now coordinating with SIR. We're collaborating with them, especially from Dr. Brown from Vanderbilt, to develop a universal curriculum that then serve as a national model for the new IR residency that's sponsored by the society. This is a huge opportunity for us to really help develop the way that the trainees and the future IRs are going to be trained in this country. I also want to continue our close collaboration with the Student and Resident Committee, which is our oversight committee. Basically, we want to make sure to advance our goals, advance our interests and goals for the society's in-training members. We want to be your voice, and we want to be able to make sure that what you want accomplished, we are able to put forward for you with the society. Furthermore, I want to develop support material for all members. I want RFS to function as a centralized resource. I want all of our trainees to be able to come to our website or come to one of us and be able to basically answer any question that you have. I want us to have all the up-to-date information on ESIR. I want us to have all the up-to-date information on the IR residency. I want us to be up-to-date clinically with landmark papers, and I want us to be basically at the forefront of IR, really on the cutting edge of our specialty. Along with that, I want to continue to expand our educational resources. We have a vast amount of educational resources. If you haven't had a chance, please check out our website. All the way from clinical lecture series, we've started a collaboration with JVIR. We have a strong social media presence. We're also getting very much involved in the SIR-PAC, in politics and healthcare, and really getting in on a grassroots campaign to really help promote IR. And lastly, I want to foster the development. We have a new governing council committee that is starting this year called International Outreach, headed up by Alex Joe. And basically, we're going to start collaborating with international societies such as SIR-RFS over in Europe, SIRA up in Canada. So we really want to help bridge those gaps and collaborate with them, learn how they train, and maybe pick up some new ways that we can teach our trainees. And we also have an ICU service line. Like I said, We are really moving into a clinical model. We need to be full clinicians. We need to know how to deal with all of our patients' comorbidities and all of their acute issue. And I think the ICU service line is going to be a pivotal movement to really help us become full clinicians. Again, here's our website. If you haven't had a chance, please check it out. It gives the history of the RFS. It actually has the application to join the RFS in case you are not a member already, or you want to be able to guide your co-medical students or co-residents towards the area where they can apply. Also has updated news where different members of the RFS will write articles regarding various topics. All of our educational resources can be found here. All of our webinars are here, all of our journal primers. And finally, editorials on different things that we want to put our opinion out there or put our own little spin on. For example, last year we went on a site visit to DC, and I wrote about the new House bill that that is put forward to help IR trainees. So really good information on our RFS section webpage. Please check it out if you haven't had a chance to. Briefly, here's the RFS structure. So obviously overhead is the Society of Interventional Radiology. This is Dr. Chuck Ray. He is going to be the president of SIR this year. And then underneath him is going to be Dr. Prag Patel. He's the counselor for the Graduate Medical Education Committee. And then underneath the Graduate Medical Education Committee is the Student and Resident Committee, or SARC. And that is headed up by our faculty advisor and mentor, Dr. Paul Rashan in Denver. And then underneath SARC is where the RFS falls. So this is the basic structure of the RFS. We have 10 committees and subcommittees that basically function as the governing council. And this includes the chair, membership, annual meeting, advocacy, women in IR, communications, our new international outreach, recruitment, IR training, medical student council, and the clinical education pathway. Underneath the membership council, all of our service lines, which most of you are probably involved with one of our service lines, of which we have 7, as you can see here. And then underneath the medical student council is obviously the different medical student hierarchy, which we will go over later. And here it is. Here's a brief introduction onto what the medical student council structure looks like. I'm going to leave most of this for Rebecca, who is the medical student council chair, to better explain it during her section. And this is a brief overview of what the actual term is for the new governing council. So elections are actually held in the summer and fall. And then the elections, we officially choose the new governing council members in winter, in which case there's about anywhere from a 3 to 4 month period in which we are transitioning so that the new governing council members can fully take over and be ready to go. And then their official term begins at the annual meeting. And the official term goes from annual meeting to annual meeting. So we will be taking over in Washington, D.C. officially. And then our term will run until 2018, in which we will turn over to the next GC, who will take over in Los Angeles next year. And here is our new 2017 RFS Section Governing Council. Each of these individuals will be talking about their respective committees tonight, giving you a brief overview of what their committee is, the goals they've accomplished over the past year, and what they expect to accomplish on the upcoming term. And more importantly, this is our 2016 Governing Council. I really just wanted to say thank you to all of these people who have made the RFS such a strong, powerful force over the past year. Each of these people has done a tremendous job. It was honestly a well-oiled machine over the past year. We've accomplished some amazing things that you're going to hear about, and I really just wanted to thank all of them. And here are just some key accomplishments that we of 2016. We have, as I talked about earlier, we have a new International Outreach Committee and a new ICU service line. Our medical student interest groups and recruitment has grown exponentially. We have 77 IRIGs nationally. We have numerous IR symposia that seem to be popping up every month now, which is fantastic. We have 305 medical student attendees at the annual meeting this year, which is the most we've ever had and is extremely exciting. We've expanded our educational offerings, which you will hear about later. We've also expanded our collaboration. We now have a section in JVIR Access. As I said, we're reaching out to SIR-RFS international societies, and then we're also expanding our service lines, and then we're also getting involved with congressman site visits and getting into a grassroots organization to really help bolster IR's front when it comes to healthcare and politics in the nation. So with that, I'm going to be turning over the microphone to Rebecca now, and she is going to be talking about the Medical Student Council. So Rebecca, the floor is all yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. My name is Rebecca Lee. I am a third-year medical student at FIU Herbert Wertheim College of Medicine in Miami, Florida, and I'm taking over for Kyle Wilson, who is an MS4 at the University of Maryland. Next slide. So just a brief introduction about MSC. We have we have four main committees, and we also have an MSc webmaster who reports to RFS. Our four committees include the Education and Research Committee, IR interest groups, Patient and Family-Centered Care, and PR and Communications. And below gives you a general idea of some of the projects that are being done in each group. IR-IG, I feel, is very self-explanatory. They work on getting more IR-IGs in the country. Next slide. So this year was a really amazing year in terms of membership. We exceeded our goals quite early. Our goal was to have 1,500 medical students on the listserv, and we have 1,712, 75 IR-IGs, and we have 77, and 250 students attending SIR 2017, and currently it's 305 and growing. So we've really done really well in terms of membership and getting more people, more medical students in interventional radiology, which is really exciting. And I have really big shoes to fill for next year. Next slide. So our goals are as follows. In addition to collaborating with RFS on relevant projects, each committee has a set of goals that they would like to accomplish for the upcoming year. PR communications, our goal is to have 1,800 SIR medical student members, 375 students registered for SIR 2018. We also want to work on strengthening the student blog that we have and widen our web presence on social media via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our medical blogs, e.g. Kevin MD at Mini and Student Doctor Network. IR-IG hopes to get 80 IR-IGs by SIR 2018 and 16 regional symposia by SIR 2018. Next slide. Education and research is focusing on continuing to work on monthly articles that feature the latest research in IR, implementing more educational IR resources in various media formats, including the research cookbook and introduction to IR course, as well as educational videos related to IR procedures. We're also working on a couple of webinars in terms of the application cycle, like the program director webinar that we had last year, which is really successful. And we're also working on an intern year webinar. Patient and family-centered care, their goals are to expand the patient narrative collection that they've been working on in the past year, ideally to cover most of the fundamental IR procedures by 2018. And ideally, their goal is also to expand more resources related to patient-centered care and really showing how IR is interacting with patients and how important patients for interventional radiologists. So those are our goals for next year, and we got a lot to do.
Great, thank you so much, Rebecca. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to David Maldo. He is the chair of clinical education.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Maldo. I'm an R1 PGY2 at the University of Rochester Medical Center. I am the outgoing membership chair and incoming chair of clinical education. I'll be succeeding Lindsay Thornton, who is an R3 at the University of Florida, who has done a tremendous job with the committee. Next slide. So this is a quick overview of the many projects we have through the Clinical Education Committee. Our main goal as a committee is to develop and improve upon existing educational tools for both residents, fellows, and beyond, and promote the interest of interventional radiology and awareness through whether it be social media, webinars, or other educational projects in various different formats, as you see here. And I will get into a little bit more detail of each one But as you can see, there are joint projects ongoing with many of the committees. We work in a collaborative way, particularly with the Membership Council through our Survival Guide project, Journal Primer, and our Practice Building projects. We work closely with communications for our social media initiatives, and we also work with the Medical Student Council in addition to various other committees. Next slide, please. So one of our educational tools is webinars. We've expanded this significantly over the last year. The research lecture series is new from this past year, and Lindsay and the team did a tremendous job getting this up and running. These were good resources for understanding the basics of research from various questions, which I will go into more later. Additionally, our webinars are also tailored to clinical aspects of IR. As Andy mentioned in his initiatives, this is a major push for us, is to make sure we understand the disease processes and the entire patient behind the disease that we may be treating. So this is a push that we've had and will continue over the next year. And the Critical Care Webinar Series, which is through the ICU service line, also aiming towards that initiative. And the Clinical Lecture Series is a collaborative series with the Medical Student Council. Next slide. So here's a snapshot of the YouTube channel, which after our various lectures or webinars by faculty, whether it be in interventional radiology or internal medicine, critical care, surgery, multidisciplinary webinars are then posted to our YouTube channel. I encourage you to check that out, as we've had many more uploads recently, and we'll continue with using this as a great educational tool, not only for understanding disease processes, but performing debates and journal clubs and other interesting topics. Next slide. Just a brief showing that we've had steady increase in our YouTube channel subscribers. Currently, we're at 775 subscribers from 500 in 2016. And all told, we've posted 220 educational videos. Next slide. The RFS case series is one of our projects that ultimately what we do every year leading up to the annual meeting is we have people submit interesting cases that they've come across during their training. And we collect all of those, and we had 69 for this upcoming 2017 annual meeting. And we selected 5 judges who have offered their time to review these, and came down to a final 3, and then eventually a winner, which will be shown at the annual meeting next month. Next slide, please. So those cases that were submitted to us for this case competition or case series, we then use to post on our website and elsewhere, because these are all excellent cases, and we want to maximize our opportunity with these. So about 3 times a month, the 1st, 10th, and 20th is anticipated. We post one of these short PowerPoints or cases on our website. So I encourage you to check those out on the RFS website. Next question, next slide, please. Figure 1 is one of our ways of communicating or increasing our web presence. Figure 1, we were the first medical community on Figure 1 back a few years ago, and we aim for weekly postings of interesting topics and pictures in IR, and we're currently at 779 followers. Next slide. The research lecture series, as I touched on earlier, has been a great success, started this year. We've had topics from finding a strong mentor to how to turn an idea into a project, to understanding study designs and various basic science translational research topics. As we finish that, we are going to be transitioning to 2017 to a different type of research lecture series where we'll be tailoring them specific to IR-related disease processes. So taking uterine fibroids as an example, given the current state of research at the present time, both not only in medicine, not only in IR, but also as pertains to medicine and surgery, what are the current studies that support various management options, what are ongoing trials, and any potential for designing future studies. So these are what our webinars are going to be tailored for this year, as we understand that we are basing our decisions on level 1 evidence and randomized controlled trials. And that will be a focus of our education for the upcoming year. Next slide. The IR practice building is a project where we're establishing referral patterns, or that is our main goal of the IR practice building project, essentially short PowerPoints designed for referring physicians to understand what our role, or help them understand our role in the disease process. And we've, in the process of completing phase 1, and phase 2 is becoming underway now, where we are implementing the literature review, as I had said, with the research lecture series in a similar manner. What is the level 1 evidence behind these management decisions? And that will be the focus for phase 2, and phase 3 will come after that. So we're making great progress in this and look forward to what we can do in the upcoming year. Next slide. So overall goals for 2017, although there are many, some of the ones I thought would be particularly helpful was to continue and further our collaboration with the other committees as we work jointly on these projects together. Maintaining open communication, even more so, would be fantastic and would help us streamline our projects and help us understand where we may need some more emphasis to target for our education. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we're modifying our research lecture series, and the hopes of this is for us to strengthen our knowledge of what the high-level evidence is for each disease process and the management thereof. Finally, a new project idea that will be in discussion for this year and hopefully implemented shortly is an IR clinic companion. So this resource will be tailored for residents and fellows in the clinic setting, and focused questions on various things such as BPH, a focused HMP, asking the right questions and understanding what the management options for these patients are and when they can expect efficacy for given medication or given surgical option, and when IR would eventually play a role. So these are some of our goals, but I hope we can continue forth with the progress we've had this year, and really look forward to working with everyone.
All right, thank you very much, David. We're going to be moving on now to Erica Alexander. She is going to be taking over for the Membership Council and Service Lines. Erica?
Hey everyone, I'm in R1 over at UPenn, and I'm inheriting the Membership Council from David Maldo, who did an awesome job last year, really helping to grow a number of the projects. Next slide, please. So the RFS Membership Council is broken up into a number of particular service lines, as shown here. They include vascular disease, interventional oncology, pediatrics, pain, neurointerventional, and GI and GU. And these are all of our incoming chairs for this year. Next slide, please. So the way that each of the service lines is structured is that we have our resident chairs and faculty members who are SIR members as well. And there are 4 main tenets or projects that each of these committees aims to achieve. One is the creation of survival guides, journal primers, practice building, and webinar series. And as I'm sure you saw from David's talk earlier, there's a lot of overlap between the different committees, and we collaborate on a lot of these projects. And all of these committees are made up of a number of medical students and resident and fellow members, who really help facilitate with these projects and help make them efficacious. Next slide, please. So one of the big movements going forward this year is to really increase webinars. So we've had a number of them, and they tend to focus on hot areas in IR, such as prostate embolization, but they also talk about the peri-procedural management of various issues with patients. So whether it be DVT management or peri-procedural anticoagulation, those are some of the topics that we talk about that are not necessarily part of the curriculum, but important in terms of patient care. Next slide, please. So once again, this is, as David has mentioned earlier, we post all of these on our YouTube channel, so they're there for all of posterity to be watched and reviewed. Next slide. So one of the major projects of the Membership Council are the survival guides. So they help to provide interventional radiologists, whether they be fellows, residents, attendings, or medical students or attendings, with step-by-step procedural guidance on some of the more commonly performed procedures. Each of these survival guides is located on the main RFS website, and they include sections about the procedure itself, indications, contraindications, pre-op preparations, and post-op management of these as well. And it's really meant to go over some of the technical skills and also teach about some of the perioperative management as well. And this is an ongoing process with all of our service lines, and there are a number of new survival guides that come out throughout the course of the year. Next slide, please. The journal primers are another big project that we've been working on this year, and the goal is to look at some of the sentinel papers in interventional radiology and also in medicine and fields that are applicable to the IR, and to include summaries of these articles that are available. The goal is really to look at level 1 evidence and validated studies going forward, and to really help make this a more robust resource for residents, fellows, medical students, and attendings. Next slide. The IR practice building is another project that we're working on with David's committee as well. And the goal is for this to really help promote what IRs do and what procedures we do for other specialties in medicine and medical students. So one of the big conversations that I've had with a number of the faculty members is why referral bases for certain procedures go to certain practitioners. And I think that a lot of times it's a lack of advertising on the part of IR. And the goal is to really make this a resource that one can show to patients, or people can put online, or people can use to explain what we're doing, and also provide some of the data behind it. So this is meant more to be kind of a lay public piece, or something that can go out to other providers. And this is another big project that we're working on this year. Next slide, please. So going forward, these are the 3 main goals that we have. So each of our service line is going to host at least 1 clinical webinar per year to help promote those educational resources. The second goal is to have a new member liaison for each of our committees. Everyone who becomes a member of the RFS gets placed on a service line, and I think that we want to make sure that we're best using these resources and allowing for our eager members to participate in projects. And the third goal is to collaborate with Shantanu, who is an PGY1 during a surgery year, but going into radiology. And he has done a really wonderful job with the ICU service line. And he is working on a high-yield literature review. And we're going to have each of the service lines help collaborate by providing summaries of high-impact or landmark studies that are relevant. So kind of an extension of the journal primer project, but unique to the peri-procedural management as related to intensive care. And we're set. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erica. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the Communications Committee. Our co-chairs, Rajat Shan and Maggie Chung, are here, and Maggie is going to be giving the presentation tonight. So Maggie, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Chung, and I'm a MS4 from the Warren Alfred Medical School, and I'm one of the co-chairs, and Rajat Shan is the other co-chair of the Communications Committee. Next slide. The Communications Committee publishes a quarterly article, and it's called the IR Quarterly every 3 months, and it's a magazine going out to the general IR community. And in the past year, our articles have covered radiation safety in IR, as well as 10 commandments of the IR consult, and also a resident perspective on IR residency updates. And we'll also have another article coming up this spring. Next slide. And in addition to the IR Quarterly, the Communications Committee also publishes a quarterly newsletter on the general RFS website. And this newsletter is composed of 3 resident articles and also 3 medical student articles. And in this past year, some of our topics have included focusing on MACRA, the integrated IR residency, and how students should prepare for being an applicant, as well as fertility-related radiation risks. Next slide. And the Communications Committee also manages several social media accounts, and so mainly the RFS Twitter account, Instagram, and also Figure One, along with the Clinical Education Committee. And these accounts really help medical students, residents, fellows gain access to unique opportunities, as well as any exposure to interesting cases, and connect with other members of the IR community. Next slide. And we have been very active on Twitter especially, and we've made tremendous progress in the last year. So looking at the numbers, our number of tweets has gone up from the 700s to 3,000s. Our number of likes has also increased significantly to the 3,000s, and our number of followers have more than doubled. And in terms of our posts, we get most of our activity from retweeting IR institutions and physicians on a daily basis. But we also have original content composed of topics on IR education or medical student education, patient care, technology, and that's on a weekly to monthly basis. And we also advertise any webinars that are taking place, as well as local symposiums, and we also cover and publicize journal primer postings. Next slide. And the other responsibilities of the Communications Committee include coordinating the webinar. So any webinars that are set up, we add it to our general RFS calendar and publicize through our many different outlets, and as well as JBIR Access, which provides summary of recent JBIR articles and focus on clinical pearls for medical students, residents, and fellows. And usually the authors are from the RFS Communications Committee. And other duties also include publicizing regional symposia, webinars through the RFS student residents listserv, as well as SIR Connect. Next slide. So our goals for next year, in terms of our newsletter, we hope to publish articles focusing on high-yield topics, including healthcare reform, how to navigate the job market for residents and also graduating fellows, and also continuing the Physician Spotlight series through a collaboration with the Medical Student Council. For social media, we hope to partner with Dr. Isabel Newton, who has done a tremendous job with the interventional initiative to help IR gain more publicity. We hope with a partnership with her to promote RFS social media presence. And we are also working on a podcast series with JBR to focus on high-yield clinical management topics. And for the JBR Access, historically, participation has been from the Communications Committee, and we hope to open and increase participation from the general RFS body through an application process.
All right, thank you very much, Maggie. All right, so we're going to move on to our new committee coming in, the International Outreach Committee, headed up by Alex Joe. Alex?
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Zhou, and I am a current R2 in the IR residency at the University of Michigan, and I am the chair of the new International Outreach Committee. Next slide. So although this committee under RFS was created this year, SIR has been historically heavily involved in international outreach for several years, and I believe that we have about approximately 600 SIR members members from 64 different countries as we speak. So the main goals of this committee is to expand opportunities in the U.S. for international trainees and vice versa, international opportunities for U.S. trainees. And I'll go into more details on the next slides, but and the next goal is to provide up-to-date information regarding different IR training available around the world. And specifically, the main discussion has been between RFS and the European Training Forum of SIR-RFS. And this discussion has been quite interesting because SIR-RFS is composed of several countries, whereas SIR is mainly composed of just US members. And the training model in each European countries vary drastically, ranging anywhere from the traditional IR model that we're familiar with, such as the IR fellowship training after residency training, to a complete absence of an IR fellowship in some countries. So nonetheless, this does not mean that the training in Europe is inferior to US by any means, but our hope is to provide ETF and other societies that are similar and that are young with information regarding our newly adopted IR training model, so they can learn from our successes as well as our failures to formulate their own training model that suits their own needs. And lastly, I hope that this committee will serve as the main point of contact when it comes to RFS activities pertaining to international relations. And we have many attendings and trainees that are already invested in several relationships with international committees at a personal and professional level. And notably, we have a robust support from Dr. Brian Stankin, who is the former SIR president and the current head of global outreach for SIR. And I believe he is currently in India right now at their society meeting, expanding our SIR outreach to India. Next slide, please. So to talk about some specific projects that I want to pursue, as you can see on this slide, there are many conferences that are available around the world. And they're put on by very, very good IR societies that are very influential. And these are golden opportunities that trainees need to learn more about. And I think that IR is approached very differently around the world, and it's a really good experience when you get to go there and see it for yourself. And there is deceptively significant variations in the way IR is performed around the world. And even when it comes to the most seemingly commonplace procedures, such as tips. So my hope is to expand opportunities to allow IR trainees in the US to gain access to these conferences, possibly through scholarship opportunities, grants, etc. And in addition, I really would like to develop observerships around the world where residents and fellows can see firsthand how IR is practiced by participating for days to weeks at a different country. And like I said, as we speak, Dr. Stankin as well as Kavi, Dr. Krishnasamy, are in India right now, and they're going to be exploring scholarships as well as observerships that they can develop in India for trainees. Next slide. So as well as expanding our opportunities for U.S. trainees, I would like to expand our current opportunities in the U.S. for international trainees as well. And our current RFS members have been already very successful at developing great relationships with international committees. And we have already provided several opportunities to our Canadian neighbors. And for example, at the last SIR at Vancouver, several Canadian trainees actually actively contacted RFS through social media. And we talked before, during, and even after the meeting. And we've been invited to several lunches, dinners, gatherings. And the Canadian team also participated in the RFS film panel. And they almost even won. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't win. My team ended up winning, and I think it was just pure luck, but they were fantastic. So I'm hoping to continue this great relationship at the future SIRs by having Canadian members participate in the film panel again and attend as many IR in training opportunities as possible. And the ultimate goal is that we expand this outreach to include European, Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern, African, pretty much basically trainees from all parts of the world to have equal opportunities to attend SIR and share our wealth of information that we already gathered as RFS members. And I would like to provide scholarship opportunities, discounted or free memberships to SIR, set up more gatherings, and develop mentor-mentee opportunities if possible. So that does it for my committee. And again, my name is Alex Joe, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Alex. All right, we're going to be moving on to the recruitment committee, which is headed up by Charles Hua. Charles, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Charles Hua and I'm from the Mount Sinai St. Luke's West Hospitals and I am the 2017 RFS Recruitment Chair. I'll be taking over for the amazing recruitment co-chairs Nikki Keefe and Fareed Riaz. Next slide please. Over the past year, our membership has risen to 2,730, double of what it was 3 years ago, and is made up of medical students, residents, and fellows. Next slide highlights the three overarching levels of the RFS. First is the RFS general member, someone who is automatically a part of the RFS through their SIR membership, who has access to the vast resources we have to offer, but not technically taking part in any RFS activities. The second is the general council member. In order to be part of the general council, they must first apply through a formal application. Once accepted, the general council member is assigned to a committee or service line where they can take part in many of the exciting projects that are offered through the RFS, such as training resources, survival guides, mentorship, journal primers, or even develop resources for the new IR training paradigm. The third is the governing council member. The governing council is comprised of chairs who are elected annually through an official application process. This past year, there were 23 applications for 9 positions. A little more about the general council application on the next slide. Application for the general council is through an online app, and inducted members are selected from a pool of highly qualified and motivated applicants and involves an in-depth interview, typically with the head of the RFS, Dr. Vatican Cherry. Once accepted, an orientation email and packet is sent out, followed by further instructions from the respective committee and service line chairs. The RFS mirrors the increasingly growing field of interventional radiology, and we are always looking for more active, motivated, and enthusiastic individuals to be involved with the RFS. In addition to overseeing the numerous applications for the General Council, on the next slide, our recruitment goals for this coming year is to focus on retention and active participation through surveys, correspondences, and meetings. We will strive to develop a strong RFS presence at the SIR next month. Our goal is to also continue to promote and assist IR interest groups nationally. And lastly, we will strive to successfully organize and direct the next General Council elections for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Okay, we are now going to be moving on to our overview of the Advocacy Committee, who is headed up by Karan Patel.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. My name is Karan Patel. I'm the incoming chair for Advocacy. I'm an R3 at Wayne State. I'm taking over for Alex Misono, who was an R4 at MGH. So I want to talk about what is advocacy and why do it, and why is it important. Advocacy allows us to have a presence on the Hill. It helps us build relationships with key members of Congress. And by engaging with them, we can make them aware that our specialty exists and the wonderful things it has to offer to our patients. By hearing our stories, policymakers can then support legislation conducive to innovation and continue patient access to IR services. So why is it important? Let me start off by saying what happens if you don't advocate for the specialty. Gastroenterologists traditionally did not have a PAC, which is someone advocating on behalf of their specialty to members of Congress. So as of 2016, in January last year, they saw a 20% drop in colonoscopy-related reimbursement. Now, obviously, this isn't only about the money, but this impacts our nation's public health efforts to reduce colorectal cancer rates, which have traditionally gone down, but now a lot of GI practices won't be able to provide cost-effective screening because their overheads just went up due to the reimbursement cuts. So it's definitely important to be part of the decision-making process. And if you're not part of it, then you're likely going to be left out. And this has consequences not just for reimbursements, but also losing the ability to care for our patients altogether. So advocacy matters. I mentioned PAC. I want to briefly touch on that really quickly. So a PAC is Political Action Committee that's dedicated to raising and investing money to elect or defeat candidates and to advance the outcome of a political issue or legislation. So they're the ones that are actually lobbying on our behalf on Capitol Hill. So luckily SIR has a PAC, and it's called SIR-PAC. It raises money for federal candidates through fundraisers, special events, which the candidates can use to get reelected for their campaigns. 100% of the money raised through the SIR-PAC goes towards candidates. None of the money comes out of membership dues, which is important. And none of this money comes from ACR or the ACR version of Political Action Committee, which is called the RAD-PAC. So essentially, more money you have in your PAC, that allows you to get more access to policymakers. So then you can tell them your side of things. Next slide, please. Actually, can you go back? I want to mention something. So what has SIR-PAC accomplished for us in the past? Member contributions to SIR-PAC has helped support candidates who have halted reimbursement cuts up to 41% to IR services under the CHAMP Act. We also introduced a bill, which I'll talk about briefly, the GME funding bill, HR 5188, which actually goes towards increasing GME funding towards the IR residency, which got approved in 2014. As most of you guys know, the fellowships are being phased out in 2020, so the new IR residency will need its own funding, which currently is coming from the radiology side of things. So this bill, which is HR 5188, is what we're actually proposing on Capitol Hill. So traditionally, SIR has 5,800 members or so. Our membership contributions have really been dismal last year, and I have the numbers up, which from 2014 to 2016, you can see currently, these are our PAC numbers currently as our SIR-PAC stands. And as you can see, from 2014 to 2016, the numbers has been constantly been dwindling down. And I have a comparison to our competitor specialties, ACC, which is American College of Cardiology, and then Society of Vascular Surgery, and their numbers are far better. And they are just a small society, just like we are, but their members are doing a lot better. So part of the committee, advocacy committee, what we did this past year was to look at these factors. Why does member contributions are terrible, and what are some of the, and how we can best characterize these, how we can best characterize the donation behavior to our SIR-PAC. And that was essentially the SIR-PAC survey that we created and we sent out to every single member of SIR. Another thing that we participated in was the Grassroots Leadership Program. This was the 4th annual event where 15 SIR members went on to DC, and it went through a 2-day kind of like an advocacy boot camp where they met with members of Congress from their own districts, and they also helped introduce this new bill that I spoke about, the GME funded bill, HR 5188, which is to get more funding for these residency slots. One of the things that committee has done in the past is also done congressional site visits, where you can actually reach out to members of your district, whether it's a representative or like a senator, and you can have them come to your institution, and you can do a little show and tell. You can have them play with catheters. You can show them a couple of cases about IR and how IR makes a difference in our patients' lives. One of the things also as a committee that we have done is we've kind of synthesized all the site visits that have been done thus far, and we looked at what makes a site visit successful. What are some of the factors that actually makes a site visit successful? So we actually have a SIR scientific poster at this annual meeting in DC. I encourage all of you to check it out. It's called Introducing Policymaker to IR Through Site Visits. Next slide, please. So the upcoming goal moving forward this year, basically, we want to continue to expand the SIR Grassroots Leadership Program with Doug here, who's the SIR-PAC director. With one key tweet this year is we're looking to current RFS members and med students who are actually residing in districts of policymakers that are appointed to health-related committees. So on the outside, be Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce on the Senate side, Finance and Health committees. And the goal here is to promote IR awareness to members of Congress who will be in charge of passing this GME bill that I spoke about, so we can get more funded slots for the new residency. Second thing we're also doing is the IR advocacy social media site. We want to launch our Twitter account specifically for advocacy. A lot of members are using social media as an outlet to convey their message. So we want to promote member awareness to issues on Capitol Hill that are going on, and also get them connected to members of Congress by following them and whatever have you. And also will serve as a venue to donate to SIR-PAC so we can strengthen our PAC. And finally, the advocacy site visit toolkit for trainees. We want to create 2 PowerPoints on the actual RFS website that will allow interested members and trainees to actually advocate on behalf of the specialty, whether it's to get them aware of these issues that are going on, raise awareness about SIR-PAC and its importance. So we will continue to do that. Last thing I want to remind everyone watching is we're going to be having a SIR-PAC booth at the annual meeting. The booth is going to be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Every day. It will essentially be advocacy central. We'll have brochures. We'll have a promotion going on, Putt for PAC, where members will be able to contribute and putt for a prize. We're giving away gift cards, iPads, golf trips. So I encourage all of you to visit us at the SIR-PAC booth and help strengthen our PAC. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Karan. I really appreciate it. Okay, so next we're going to be moving on to the IR Residency Training Committee, which is headed up by Christopher Malloy.
Hi,
Chris, go ahead. Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. My name is Chris Malloy. I'm from Kaiser Permanente in Los Angeles. I'm an R2. I am honored to be taking over the Residency Training Pathway Committee from Alex Joe, who did a great job last year. This is a very exciting time for IR residency training and just IR training in general, based on the changes that have already taken place and the upcoming changes through 2020 and on. It creates an environment where medical students need to make their decisions earlier, and they will benefit from being able to make their decisions earlier. So it's very important for us to improve our outreach to the medical students. I know we've heard this earlier on the call. Some of my co-presenters have already talked about that. And our goal as the residency training, if we can go to the next slide, one of our goals is to reach out to medical students and get to them as early as possible, not only to help them make their decision, but there are a lot of medical students that don't even know interventional radiology exists, or radiology exists for that matter. So some of our goals are to continue publishing the integrated curriculums and educational resources for current residents and medical students to help focus them into becoming clinically oriented physicians. We also want to reach out to programs and find out exactly where they're at regarding their IR residency status, their early specialization in IR or ESIR status, as well as independent IR training pathways. And then what we'd like to be able to reach out to IR programs and the program directors to find out best practices to engage medical students, to educate residents and medical students, and to integrate these medical students. And I'll talk more about that later. Next slide. So one of our current projects is we are developing a universal curriculum for clinical rotations. As part of our training to become the best possible interventionalists that we can become, we need to make sure that we're focusing on clinical aspects and understanding all of the aspects of the workup of a patient, the evaluation of a patient, not just the technical aspects of a procedure. And so over the course of the last year, many of these topics that we see on the slide, the vascular surgery, surgical oncology, medical oncology, etc., we've written up modules for those. Some of them are published, some of them are currently under review and being prepared to be published on the RFS website. And this will continue to help people prepare for these rotations and help them optimize their learning on those rotations. Next slide, please. So another project that we're doing is interactive online modules covering specific concepts procedurally, as well as what the clinical indications around these procedures are. So instead of just looking at specific topics of, what type of oncology problem or what type of general topic, surgical or OB-GYN, dialing it down to specific procedures. What are the indications and contraindications to percutaneous transhepatic cholangiography, as well as why would you do it, why wouldn't you do it, why, what type of medications do you need to think about, what do you need to hold, is anticoagulation going to become an issue for any of these topics? So these are in development right now, and it will help any medical student, any resident. We said junior, but it's a residents at all levels. So that way, when they're on their IR rotations, they can excel while they're on their IR specific rotation. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, reaching out to medical students is important. When medical students are in their third year, they have to decide if they're going to try to do an away rotation. So last year, the residency training group worked really hard to update what the VSAS status was for each program. We're going to try to do that again this year, so that way we can get updated information available in one place for everybody on the characteristics of each training program and what they have available for visiting students. Next slide, please. We have a survey in place. It's currently set up to be an online survey. We're also modifying it so that way we can have a paper survey for people that have recently completed their intern year or currently completing their intern year, to talk to them about what their experience was like. So that way we can get some feedback on how to better prepare people for an IR residency, how to make sure that they have the skills, not just technical skills, but clinical skills, so that way they can excel throughout their residency, so they can be at the leading edge of interventional radiology without any gaps in their training. So I think this will be beneficial, and we'll be rolling this out at SIR with both a digital survey as well as a hard copy survey for anybody that would prefer to use hard copy. Next slide, please. So this is something I'm excited about, a new project that we'd like to reach out to the program directors and find out specifically what different program directors or programs are doing to engage with medical students, so that way they can inspire them, they can educate them, they can integrate medical students. And when we find different programs doing unique things that might be able to be replicated throughout the country to further inspire medical students and help them become better prepared and excited about IR, we'd like to be able to disseminate that information throughout the country to program directors and say, hey, this is what they're doing at such and such a program, and they're finding a good response, and put together some best practices for that to improve outreach, because again, we want to reach these medical students early and get them prepared early. Next slide, please. This is just a short summary. We have several other projects. I gave you a short list of them. We're very busy and are really looking forward to this year working on this training pathway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right, so we're going to be moving on now to the Women in IR, headed up by Monica. Monica?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Uceda. I'm an R2 at St. Francis Hospital in Evanston, Illinois, and I'm the chair of the Women in IR committee. Next slide, please. As we all know, interventional radiology is a fast evolving specialty. When the Society of Cardiovascular Interventional Radiology was founded in 1973, 3 of their 57 members were females. Today, nearly 4,500 members conform to the Society of Interventional Radiology, and 8.8% of them are women. Diversity in healthcare has been shown to improve care for minorities and underserved populations, patient satisfaction, and also communication with their providers. Acknowledging the lack of female representation is key in the transformation of our field. In a business setting, studies have demonstrated also companies that have diverse leaders have better outcomes, right? Studies regarding physician differences show patient satisfaction and compliance depend on gender-related specific communicative skills and not on physicians' gender specifically. They have also shown women possess a patient-centered communication style, which is particularly useful when undergoing procedures perceived as intimate. Let's say, for example, urinary embolizations. Despite the unique role of female interventionalists, underrepresentation is still something we need to work on. Misconceptions regarding radiation exposure, pregnancy, work hours, and male predominance influence female trainees when considering IR residency or fellowship. These issues definitely need clarification, and we can do so through interest groups, social media, and presentations in an effort to promote recruitment of female physicians for our field. Mentoring is also imperative to foster feelings of inclusion and create inspiring liaisons. So in that sense, for this, our mission is to inspire, educate, and promote women in intervention radiology while encouraging them to pursue their personal and professional goals, to serve the profession of intervention radiology in all aspects, including those inherent to education and maintenance of a well-rounded and balanced workforce. For this, we have the support of the Women in IR Committee of Attendings. We're always available for questions and discussion of new projects. Next slide, please. Our committee was created about 2 years ago, still, I guess, one of the youngest committees, and we're in the process of expanding. The goal of our past chair was to build a sustainable committee, and that goal was definitely accomplished. We have undergone substantial growth and participation during meetings. We have currently 46 members. Most of our members are residents and medical students. Members are involved in projects, and we also collaborate with other committees and service lines. Next slide, please. We have accomplished several projects in 2016, including articles and collaborations, as well as webinars. For the highlight articles, these were elaborated to provide residents, fellows, and medical students with a story they can relate to. They were designed in a Q&A fashion, where these amazing female leaders were able to share their journeys and secrets for success. Other articles included pregnancy in the life of an intervention radiologist, radiation safety in IR, and these articles were more towards demystifying all these misconceptions that we were talking about, especially radiation safety. We also had one of the webinars with Dr. Victoria Marks, the unique risks for women working in IR. So we're trying to give information to female trainees that are trying to get into residency or considering fellowship or now residency. Next slide, please. This is a new thing, the liaison position. Natasha Mumford, Dr. Mumford, our past chair, will be holding a liaison position between the RFS and the SIR Women in IR committees in order to contribute with the mentorship program. This will be discussed in depth at SIR next month, and we strive to get great results over the course of this year, and we will bring you more information for next year, but this is in the works, and we're very excited about this. Next slide, please. So our goals for 2017 are to continue our committee expansion, but maintaining active memberships. We want to keep our members engaged in projects, and we're going to include minimal requirements, one project every 6 months, and attend at least 6 committee meetings. We want to keep collaborating with other service lines and committees. One of our goals is to produce established amount of projects throughout the year, including topics such as negotiation, research, female leadership, interpersonal communications, and early career development. We would like to produce at least 6 articles per year and quarterly webinars. And our last goal would be to recruit new members by spreading the word. We are in the process of creating a PowerPoint or a video for new members to be presented at different symposiums and other conferences, such as the Chicago Radiological Societies and some here in Illinois. And we would like to give them information and sending the message that if they want to be involved in intervention radiology and they have questions, we are here to provide information, we're here to provide advice and guide them to the right pathway and hopefully getting into our field. That's about it.
All right, thank you very much, Monica. All right, our last committee is the annual meeting committee. This will be very brief. the way that the annual meeting runs is there's an in-training curriculum that is developed every year, which is a bunch of sessions that are geared specifically towards medical students, residents, and fellows that focus on high-yield topics regarding that really impact them, such as interviewing for your first job, how to negotiate a contract, as well as fellowship panels and getting interviews with different jobs, as well as having a strong mentor. So briefly, there are 2 co-chairs. It's a 2-year commitment. 2 residents, there's always 1 senior and 1 junior. This year the senior member is myself, and then Rajat Chand, who is my junior member, who's going to be taking over next year. And this functions the same way with the medical students. And again, we plan a curriculum and speakers for the program. We organize the scholarship winners. They have an annual dinner each year, and we also organize a Cook Synergy dinner, which is sponsored by the Cook Company, in which 2 really renowned IR attendings give impactful speeches that are geared more towards in-training members. We also are responsible for screening the applications for the residents and the medical student scholarships that go out each year. And we work very closely with SIR and all the different industries that make the annual meeting possible. We also give an exhibit hall tour that is arranged with faculty guides. These are where faculty takes around the scholarship winners and shows them different devices that are put on by the industries who have so graciously provided us with the money to be able to give out these scholarships. And finally, the case competition that was touched upon in clinical education is also aided in their selection with our help. And here's just a few numbers regarding the resident in training and medical scholarship applications. As you can see, there's been a decrease in the resident applications, but this is because we've recently been scaling back the number of available scholarships, to residents as our focus shifts more towards medical students. But our medical student applications have continued to rise, and we're really happy to see that. And then again, this is our annual meeting trainee attendance. Each year we seem to be moving more and more in the right direction. I know that this year our 2017 numbers won't be in officially until after the annual meeting, but as of right now, medical students are above 300, so we expect these numbers to continue to rise. So that is it for the annual business meeting. Personally, I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and for those of you who are going to be listening on YouTube, the RFS is very open and willing to hear what you are interested in. If there's something you're passionate about, if you do apply, please let us know upon your application where your interests lie, where you think you would be most beneficial to the RFS, and also where you think you can make the biggest impact. I also want to let everyone know that at the annual meeting, for those that will be attending, we will be having an RFS General Assembly where we will all be there in person to give a brief interview and a brief introduction of ourselves, and then mingle with you all for about a half hour. That's going to be happening on Sunday, March 5th at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. And again, if there are any general inquiries, please contact us at SIR-RFS@gmail.com, or you can contact myself directly, and my email is listed here as well. So again, thank you all so much for coming tonight, and we look forward to being your advocate over the next year.